morning, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Wisdom Day by Dr. Anil Bajpai. Let me tell you a little bit about myself before I begin to talk about the topic at hand. I work for the Prestige University in the Prestige Group of Institutions at Indore. And I'm here to tell you a little bit about what to do next with your lives. We have had 18 months of very, very difficult times. All the boys and girls are sitting at home. They haven't been to school at all or to their colleges, and they're getting restless. Many of you think that now there is the end of the world. They will never see a school again. They will never see a college again. Believe me, like all good things, all bad things also come to an end. So, be prepared for the end of the pandemic. It has to. It will. It shall. Very soon. And you will lead normal lives once again. So all of you who have given up on classrooms, be prepared to come back to classrooms. All of you who have given up and thought that the laptop is the only classroom in the world, forget it. Come back to the classroom. Yes, the future is going to be full of blended learning opportunities, which means there will be the classroom where you will sit on a desk and listen to a teacher. And there will be classrooms which will be in laptops, where one teacher will probably teach thousands of students. That's the future. Let me tell you a little more about the future that you all hold in respect of yourselves. Many of you who have completed your programs of education and are now looking at what to do next with your lives. Very simple. Look for opportunities. Look for stuff that you can do with your life. Look for your passion. Look for what makes you happy. Look for what is your belief. Do not go by what is written on the books. Do not go by surveys. Do not go by various opportunities that have been listed by people who've already covered their lives. You are there with the world ahead of you. Do you know that today the world is full of almost 8 billion people, and these 8 billion people have lots and lots of youngsters like you? What will they do? The world was only 3.5 billion not many years ago, and we've doubled it without increasing the resources. What does that mean? That means we've angered Mother Nature, and Mother Nature has come back and hit us with this pandemic. It's okay. We will weather this. But do we know what to do next? Do we know that we need to control ourselves? Do we know we don't need to destroy the planet? We have to look after the planet. So, look at jobs, look at careers, look at sources of employment which are ecologically magnificent, which make the earth a better place to live in. What does that mean? What does that mean to you and me? What does that mean to the world? There is a new buzzword which every corporate, where every individual, every government is talking about. And that word is sustainability. Do we have a sustainable planet? Do we have a sustainable life? Do we have sustainable climate? Do we have sustainable water resources? Do we have sustainable air? Alas, the tragedy is that we have none of these. And therefore, let us all resolve to make this planet a sustainable one. The next war is not going to be fought with weapons, nor will it be fought with IT or with the cyber war. The next war is going to be fought on water. There will be a war to clamor for the conditions which is the best climate. So you will have countries with better climates than others, and everybody will want to be there. 8 billion human beings on this Mother Earth. We will need to find a way to reduce this load and to make it compatible to what the planet can sustain. So when we're talking sustainability, we're talking all this. Sustainable countries, sustainable people, sustainable population, sustainable homes, sustainable lives. And for you, the young boys and girls who are on and listening to me now, please make yourselves sustainable. Make yourselves worthy. How do you do that? Very simple, or maybe very complex. You need to figure out, are you a net consumer or a net producer? What does that mean? That means that when you came onto the planet, there was some amount of resource. You grew up and you consumed that resource by way of water, by way of air, by way of food, by way of every other consumable. What have you given back to society? What have you given back to the Mother Earth? Have you planted a tree? Have you done something which will help Mother Nature resurrect itself? If you have, then you have balanced your life. If you have not, think how can you be useful to the planet, useful to Mother Nature, useful to give back to the Mother Earth what you have taken from it. If we do that, we will be in a far, far better planet, and a much better tomorrow will wait for us. Today, many of us want to be engineers, doctors, managers, scientists, astronauts, pilots, whatever else. But how many of us want to be farmers? How many of us want to use our resources for the earth? Do you know, let me tell you a little bit of history. There's a book I recommend all of you to read, and that book is called Sapiens. Sapiens is a lovely book. Yannick Noah is the author, and it's a book all about how man came onto this earth and how civilization has developed. I will not steal the thunder from the book, but just tell you a little bit. Man was a nomad. He lived in caves. He went around hunting animals to eat. He did not know anything other than that. He had no language. He was only making sounds to each other. Then came language somewhere. Then came science. Then came the process of society when they started to live together. When society came, then came homes. From trees to caves to maybe different kinds of shelters. And then one day man discovered agriculture. He took a handful of seeds and threw it into the ground. And he realized that 6 months later or 4 months later, he could come back and see lots of food. And that's when man turned to civilization. He was wild, he was hunting animals, and then he came and discovered agriculture. When he discovered agriculture, he decided to exploit the earth. And that's where he built colonies. He discovered agriculture. He exploited the earth. And he has for millions and millions of years been doing just that. Do you know that nature has a complete balance? If left to itself, nature decides who will live, how many of you will live, how many of you will not live. There was the dinosaur. There was the dinosaur which none of us see now. Why? Because nature decided that they had had enough of the dinosaurs who were eating away every other species on the planet. And so the dinosaurs disappeared. The lion runs after the deer for food. The deer eats grass for food. So one man's food is another man's hunt. So when we go in this food chain, we realize that man has no place in that food chain. Man in some sort of a thinking is an alien to this Mother Nature, to this earth. We have no role to play in the food chain. It is grass-eating vegetarian animal, and non-vegetarian larger animal, which will feed on this animal, which will feed on the grass. Any disbalance in the number will destroy the planet. If we let the grass grow, there will be a huge chaos. There will be no food left for some of us. If we let the deer go high in number, the grass will vanish. If we let the deer die out, the lion will vanish because of food. So, in the deer, the lion and the grass, there is no room for man. Where does man come in? Man has been destroying the grass. Man has been destroying the deer and man has been destroying the lion. He's been killing all of them. So somewhere we have got to think and we've got to look at how conservation, how realizing the earth, realizing the benefits of this Mother Earth, we must give back some and we must control our planet. We must control waste. We must control undue consumption and we must control undue growth of population. So friends, we want to do one very simple thing. We want to protect ourselves and our next generations. How do we do that? How do we do that? I just talked about a few things. I talked about the dangers of letting the explosion take place in populations of any kind of species. Any kind of species, when it explodes in population, has to result in disaster. And that's what man is heading towards. Yes, we're thinking of colonizing the moon, we're thinking of colonizing other planets, but it's an impractical solution. The practical solution is control population. The earth has a finite level of which it can manage, beyond which the earth will collapse. So my friends, what I want to tell you is sustain yourselves, sustain the planet, sustain human beings, sustain the species on the planet, and make sure it's a happy place to live in for our children. We have exploited this far more than it should have been. Climate will be the next big issue. The change in climate. All the world is looking at how climatic changes are going to disturb things, how climatic changes are going to create havoc in one part of the world while the other part is not doing so. There was a rumor many years ago, let me tell you this, and this is amazing. It's a rumor that some of you may have heard. We're talking about the ice caps in the Arctic Circle melting. The temperature of the world increasing. And therefore, the water level in the seas is rising. And someone said, I'm sure this must have been a rumor spread by some people, said that the world is sinking while the southern hemisphere is rising. And therefore, Australia suddenly became a destination because Australia was increasing its surface area while the rest of the continents were decreasing surface area. So, and here is the big rumor, Australia, the government decided to restrict immigrants. Prior to which, Australia was inviting people from all over the country and the world to populate itself. When this was rumored, they started to reduce it. I will repeat, this was a rumor I heard about 35, 40 years ago, and I'm sure it was only a rumor. No government does all these kind of funny things. However, the rumor took birth in a real fact. The fact was, the earth is warming up. The earth is dangerously increasing in temperature. 1 degree rise in temperature can actually cause huge problems for the entire planet. So friends, please ensure that you have trees, you have fresh plants in your homes, around you, wherever you can do it. Resist from wooden furniture. Take away all your natural resources that you are consuming in your homes and try and work with artificial stuff. Try and work with stone. Try and work with steel. Please don't cut trees. Please don't cut trees. Yes, newspapers and all other paper products that you use, like books, like dictionaries and directories and all those paper products that you've used all your life. Try and shift to non-paper. Try and shift to electronic stuff. Try and do electronic diaries, electronic directories, electronic dictionaries. Move away from consuming paper. Because, let me tell you this, in the city of Paris, I think it was, in the year 1982, the government made a calculation. And the calculation was that one directory, one city directory, which was probably 3 volumes at that time, was made out of cutting one full 70-year-old tree. And one directory. And you need to distribute thousands and thousands of them in the city. So you need to cut thousands and thousands of trees. Now, it takes 70 years for that tree to grow up. And it takes 1 minute to chop it down. So please understand, preserve that. Change your thinking. Work on electronic stuff that the world has done. Keep away from paper. Do not waste. Do not waste. Do not kill the trees. They are eventually what is supplying you oxygen every day, every minute of the day, and consuming the waste that you produce. You produce carbon dioxide every minute. And these poor fellows, the trees who are our friends, consume that carbon dioxide and convert it into oxygen that makes you live. So, anything in nature is useful. Nature is what's going to make all the difference to you. Nature is what has supported life on the planet for so many years. Please, don't play with it. We played with nature long enough, and every 100 years, nature gives it back to us in the form of a pandemic, in the form of a plague, in the form of a Spanish flu, and the current COVID-19. There may be theories about the COVID-19 coming out of a lab in Wuhan, but let me tell you, even if it did or did not, nature took its course. How the pandemic rose, how we managed to contain it, how we are out of it or getting out of it is something that only time will tell, because more research is needed to be able to find out what actually happened. But suffice it to say, friends, that the last 18 months have been harrowing. They've been tough. They've taught us a lot of things. They've taught us that we can work without clothes. I don't mean you work without clothes. You don't need too many clothes. You can work on real time. You don't need to be doing stuff at a later time after recording. You can have meetings without having to travel in airlines. You can call people without having to go and meet them. So, travel was frivolous. We were unnecessarily traveling so much. I'm not saying that don't travel. You do travel, but travel only when it is necessary. Wasteful travel not required. You would ask me, what will happen to the airline industry? You will ask me, what will happen to roadways? You will ask me, what will happen to telephony? Telephony is what will reverse this entire revolution. Telephony is the new normal, where everything is on the telephony, or you may want to call it internet, IP, internet protocol. What is the link between all these things that I've said? Where one end I'm saying preserve nature, and the other end I'm saying go artificial, go internet protocol, go through the wireless and wired technologies of communication. Why am I saying that? Yes, there is a reason. It connects and lets you preserve nature. It lets you preserve paper. It lets you preserve all sorts of carbon emission that you do when you travel. One airline has one aircraft which flies transatlantic. It destroys a lot of atmosphere. It creates a lot of waste. Every time you burn fuel, you are creating waste. So, we're looking for electrical and maybe nuclear in times to come, energy which will help us preserve nature. We have destroyed nature already. Petroleum is only going to last another 30 years. Wood has almost disappeared in many parts of the world. Coal is something we've mined so much that nothing seems to remain out of it. And all this is what? All this is buried sunshine. Sun that gave rise to all these kinds of natural resources which got buried for millions and millions of years under the earth is what we have consumed. I'm not saying the earth is devoid of everything. we can go deeper and deeper and deeper and eventually get lots of energy from beneath the surface. But will that be worth it? Is it worth doing all that? An easier concept is to preserve it. Save the earth, save yourself, save the future. So, with all this, keep yourself safe, keep yourself healthy, stay indoors, follow the COVID protocol wherever you are, and we'll meet next Monday. Signing off, Dr. Anil Bajpai from the Wisdom Day. Bye-bye.